What's going on, family? Today we're talking about when do you date again after a breakup? Yeah, this is a very, can be a very polarizing topic. Everybody has their opinions. We have ours. We're going to give you all what we think is a healthy framework for evaluating when you should date again if you've went through a breakup. Regardless, I won't say regardless, but we can talk about the different types of breakups and like the emotional connection, all those different. We're going to talk about all the different steps with that in this video and more. But before we do, make sure you do us a quick favor, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. So I'm gonna kick this one off. So I have a lot of thoughts about this because you haven't went through a breakup. You tried to break up with me, but maybe that's another story for another day on this channel, or maybe that never comes up. Whatever. Okay. But I've been on the receiving end of getting broken up with, and I've broken up with a person before. So I have a little bit of experience. I have a little bit of knowledge of kind of like the breakup, the rebound, all of those different things. And I could tell you what my experience is and kind of my view. And that's where I'm going to come from. So this is how I look at breakups. I think many times when people experience a breakup, you know, they talk about the different stages of grief and things like that. Oh, yeah. And those are very real. A lot of times people do really experience like denial. A lot of times people do experience the anger and the frustration, then the sorrow. Call me back. It's not over. They experience all of those different things, and it's real. It's not like people aren't making that up. Sometimes guys like to mask it, and they're already talking to the next girl and stuff like that. But both men and women, I think, experience these different stages of grief. I think when we're talking about a breakup, it does depend on what was the nature of the breakup. I think if you were cheated on, I definitely think that you should be very cautious of getting into a relationship again right away, because someone making a mistake, doing like a breakup, we call it a mistake. I don't want to minimize it by saying a mistake, but it's a mistake because they shouldn't have done it. Someone that chooses to cheat on you, they did something and it feels like it's against you, and it could be against you in case, or it could just be that person was an idiot, a fool. They just completely surrendered to their own desires and made a bad decision. But either way, it's hard for you to disconnect the fact that they did this and they were interested in someone that was not you. And I think there should be a period of time that you allow yourself to get your confidence back up in yourself, making sure that you know who you are and what you bring to the table, and that you're deserving of better than someone that would cheat on you. And even if it was a situation where like that you and that person did get back together, that person needs to know who they are with and be able to affirm that person and they're who they are and things like that, and understand that they completely have put a dent in that person's confidence and knowing that you actually look to them and whatever that they are desiring, they can get from that person. So that's very important, I think. When that gets broke, I feel like you really hurt relationships, and it's very hard to it's very hard to overcome cheating. It's not impossible, but it's very challenging just on that front. But let's say it's not cheating. Let's say it was just a clashing of differences. Let's say there was pride. Let's say that just, some things that just didn't feel compatible and things like that. Well, those things tend to feel like easier obstacles where it's like, okay, we just weren't compatible, so let me go find somebody that is compatible. Well, I don't think it's that simple. And I can speak from my personal experiences. A lot of times, and it's easy for me to say it like this, it's not fair, but generally speaking, even though I was broken up with on multiple occasions, I don't feel like it was because I was necessarily the reason why the relationship didn't work. The person that broke up with me in both cases, they had a desire for something different, or they were not willing to adjust themselves to like me in a sense. So just because I don't feel like it was my fault, that doesn't mean that I didn't have to go through a process of growing. So for me, what I had to do was I had to step back and I was like, okay, what was it about this girl that I was willing to overlook these red flags, these things where like pride issues, all of these things that would come into play? What was about this person that I would overlook, that like she was making a relationship move too fast, and that she was putting pressure on me to like, basically, really press into the relationship the way she wanted. And it was like, I wasn't there yet because it was new to me. It was all these different factors. I had to evaluate myself, and I had to say, okay, what is it that I want out of a relationship, and what can I bring to a relationship? And if I can't bring anything to a relationship, then I need to wait and not be in a relationship. If I'm just looking for companionship or friendship, you can be friends with girls. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's why I focus on friendship. So that's just, I can go on and on. I just want to kind of give a framework of how I look at it. So timeline wise, I would just say, I don't necessarily focus on time, even though that's what the video is about, like specifically. But I think you need to know that you're at a place where you've recovered from that relationship and that you're not going to hold what that person did or didn't do against the next person you get with. And if you know for a fact that you won't do that, and you don't have this chip on your shoulder, or you don't have all of these unhealthy expectations of whoever you get with, or you're looking over their shoulder because you were cheated on and things like that, when you know that you're past that point, then you're probably ready to begin a friendship with someone else that could lead into a relationship. And that's kind of how I look at it. So that could be 3 months, could be 6 months, it could be a year. It just depends on how much heartbreak you felt after the relationship. And even if you didn't feel anything, you're just like, well, we didn't work out. We dated for 6 weeks, it didn't work out. Okay. I still would give yourself a couple of months to really, like, think, why did I even waste my time in that relationship if it only lasted 6 weeks? Like, what was up with that?
Yeah. I mean, we want to say, what is the exact time you should get with someone else? I don't think it's an exact time or day, number of
Everybody's
months.
different.
Yeah, and I think when I was hearing you talk, the main thing I was hearing you say, you have to make sure that you are ready. You are at a place to, whatever that time is, that's your time right there, because there are a lot of outside influences, right? Or even feelings that we have sometimes that make us want to speed that up, knowing we're not ready. And then we could mess it up with a future someone because we weren't ready, right? And another thing I really think about is like people who have lost a significant other, like they passed away. Yeah. And you have a lot of outside people who are going to give their opinion. This is from what I've seen. This is like, oh, yeah, no, you're not ready yet. Things like that, blah, blah. Or, like, think about if you've had children with that person, things like that. They're grown, and you're not a widow. A lot of people will get mad at you if you get with somebody else who is not their mother, sister, niece, blah, blah, blah. Like, we forget that, okay, you want to be with somebody, you want to be happy, you want to try to move on. If you have children, you want someone to help you take care of those children. But we like, oh, no, nobody could ever replace them, And of course, because they missed them too, we get it. But if you feel like you're at a place where you're ready, right? And then also that person you were with, I'm sure they would want you to be happy if they were here today, if they were alive. So, yeah, you need to make sure you're ready. And if you are at that place and you're ready to be in a healthy relationship, like you said, not, oh, my wife used to always do this for me. Well, she's not here. So,
that's dark.
There's a better way to communicate that is what I mean. Like,
oh, yeah, definitely.
Don't be doing that. Just be like, oh, do you think you could do it this way? Because I love it being done this way, blah, blah, blah. That's much nicer than you up there comparing your new relationship always to the old one. Exactly. That's whether they passed away or not, period. They be like, well, why don't you get back with them if it's somebody who hasn't passed away? Because you're trying to bring in old stuff to the new. That's going to mess up the new. Don't do that.
Yeah, comparison is a thief of joy, especially with relationships. I mean, definitely. You can't really compare. Everybody is different. Everybody, if you have like sliders of, to measure out what one person brings, and if you had to put like a number on it, things like that. Everybody has different sliders. Some people are more compassionate than others. Some people are more selfless. Sure. Some people are more selfish than other people. I think we all embody some of these traits and characteristics. Yeah. I think the major thing when it comes to moving on is, where is your heart at? And that's what I think a lot of people just want to ignore. They ignore how they feel in their heart about something. They ignore if their heart was broken. They ignore if they broke somebody else's heart. They ignore if all of these different variables. They also don't read the room. Here's the truth. Everybody knows when you moved on too fast. Like, if you think that somebody will think you moved on too fast, you probably are moving too fast. Like, I've seen people that have broken up, and I see the dudes with arms around girls and stuff. I'm like,
2 seconds
that
later.
Was next week. The next week you already got an arm around somebody? Like, that's crazy. We all know what it is, and I think individually you'll know if you're doing something too fast. I think a lot of times we look at it like it's a bid or something like that. Like, oh man, so-and-so is on the market. Oh my goodness. We're like, I gotta hurry up and put myself out there. Let me make sure if I'm speaking for the guys, let me make sure I shoot my shot now while she's single, because if I don't, someone else gonna swoop in, and man, I gotta make sure. And I used to feel like that definitely in high school. I used to feel like that, but And for those of you watching that are like, you know, in your teens or early 20s and things like that, like I've been there. I can relate. She's been there. We can totally understand how sometimes you might think, man, I got to make sure I put myself in the picture now while she's single. But it's like, don't skip steps. Understand that and I do believe this, and we say this a lot in the church, but what's yours is yours at the end of the day. If someone is meant for you to be with them, it's not going to be because, oh, this person got with her first. Like, hey, if you really are the guy that you think you are, if you're really doing that work to be that man that a woman will want to be with, trust me, it's not enough good men out there. It's not enough good men. So if you're a good guy, you're going to find somebody, and women are going to come your way, and you're going to have options.
Facts.
So it's like, you don't have to rush from the man's standpoint. And then for women, same thing. You really don't have to rush. You think a month of being single is an eternity? No. You think a year is a long time? 5 years is a long time being single? No, trust me. It's not as long as you think.
It's not worth your peace.
Nothing is worth getting into something just because you feel like you have to be in a relationship or because you're just desiring that companionship or you're trying to feel what you feel like you lost because of a breakup.
Sometimes the person we used to be with, we see that they're in a relationship. Like, wow, they done moved on and I'm still just sitting here. So I feel like I have to get. Nope,
yeah, that's a natural
comparison
feeling.
Again too.
That's a natural feeling to see the person you were with somebody. You're like, man, let me block them. I thought I blocked you. I thought I blocked you already. You still on my social media.
Exactly.
But oh girl, you done deleted my photos out and stuff. So yeah, it's a totally natural thing. Nobody wants to see the person that they were with, even if you broke up with them. Like I broke up with a girl. I was like, I definitely didn't want to see her with somebody else. It's just a weird feeling that, it's jealousy, all those different things. You don't want to have to deal with that. So don't let anything be a motivating factor for you getting in a relationship with somebody, except for two things. One, that you feel like you have recovered and healed in the areas that you feel broken in from the relationship. And two, the right person pulls up. Hey, that changes everything. Yeah. I understand. But those two factors matter the most, and you don't separate one for the other. Don't wait. Just because the right person pull up don't mean that you were necessarily ready. Maybe you need to move slower. Maybe like, hey, let's just focus on, I wanted to get to know you a little bit more before anything official. You're an awesome person, but I just got broken up with, or I just went through a nasty breakup, and I don't want to rush things. I would love to be in a relationship, but that's me speaking. That's not my heart. That's not my true heart. Like, so just being real with yourself, I think, goes a long way. But those are our thoughts on this. We love to know what you all think. Tell us some of the situations that you all have had. If you've been through this, I know that we're not the only ones. I know I'm not alone. Let us know what you all think. But before we head out, like this video if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell.